Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live match preview show on Football Talk Podcast. My name's Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, after a fantastic win against Newcastle last weekend, Liverpool face another big game this week as we'll be facing Man City, who are, of course, challenging for the title. And we all know what happened a few months ago when we faced them, where we pretty much got demolished by the citizens. So I wouldn't say we're seeking for revenge, but we're definitely seeking a better performance and a better result in this fixture as well. So during the show, we will analyze our opponents, see how they're doing in the league. Plus, we'll discuss a few things surrounding Liverpool in the last couple of days, which has been very interesting in terms of the overall take of our current coach's position as well as the future of the club. Plus, we'll also do the predicted lineups and score predictions as well. So let's start with analyzing our opponents. So Man City, currently second in the league, 6 points away from the top, but for a team that's challenging for the title, they're dropping far too many points. In the last 5 games, they've won once, they've drawn 3 times, and they've lost once. And that's the same form as Liverpool as well. And I wouldn't go to say that Liverpool are doing well either. So the correlation between both teams is pretty much there for everyone to see. But stepping aside from football, I have to give Pep Guardiola a huge shout out for speaking up about Palestine in a recent event in Barcelona and also in a press conference. Many don't get involved in world affairs, but he's speaking like every one of us. He's not taking sides or he's not trying to be impartial in this situation. He's saying enough is enough. People are dying in front of our eyes every single day. And this is a cry for humanity and something needs to change. So respect to Pep. And I believe his daughter is also very vocal on social media as well. I've always admired Pep as a player, going back to his Barcelona days, and of course being a manager as well. I've got a strong respect for him as a human being. So well done to you, sir, for speaking up and using your platform to bring more awareness about what is happening over in Palestine. Now back to the football, back to Liverpool in particular. Liverpool are currently in sixth place in the league, 39 points, only 2 points away from fourth. So it's a very sort of close race to the top four positions. The victory against Newcastle, looking back at it now, was a statement win. You've got Newcastle who are challenging for the same honours there, and it was an emphatic win in terms of how we finished the game. But Liverpool need to go on a run from now on, in my opinion, in order to secure Champions League football, which is a minimal requirement for a club of this size. Now, before we speak about Arne Slot's press conference, um, I'm sure many of us saw this exclusive footage that was released on the Liverpool channel, and that is the Reds roundtable, where the likes of Richard Hughes, Billy Hogan, Arne Slot were collectively interviewed and were given a platform to present their takes on current affairs at the club and see what we've achieved so far and how the club is progressing as a collective. I won't go into too much details. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If not, please do have a view of it because um, it will definitely split opinions. But that piece of content showed me that they have complete faith in Arne Slot more than I initially thought. To be honest with you, especially from Richard Hughes, who was speaking very highly of Slot during the show. And of course, he's not going to say anything negatively towards the head coach. He's not going to do it in a public forum either. But we have to remember, Slot was his long-term appointment, and he fully backs his man. Now he's not going to give us any sort of indication that his position is under fire. But I've said this before on the shows. When you are a person of seniority at a club, and it was your responsibility to hire a head coach slash manager, however you want to phrase it, you're not going to dismiss them right away. Something has to drastically change in order for that to happen. Now, As Liverpool fans, we have very high expectations of our clubs, especially as we won the Premier League last year. So we were all expecting us to go back to back or to be nearabouts in challenging for a title. But I don't think that's occurred. I feel like we've pretty much threw in the white towel November, December time. So, that's quite early for current champions if you look at recent history. So I feel like, it's going to be interesting in terms of what happens in the coming months. Um, what I will say is this for all those people, including myself, I'm going to put myself in that bracket, who are waiting for the moment that Slot gets sacked, especially this season. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. So maybe it's something we have to get used to. Um, However, I will say this: I still believe that his position will be assessed at the end of the season, and they will have to make that difficult decision because the original person that they wanted, and when I say they, I'm referring to Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards, they wanted Xabi Alonso to take over Jurgen Klopp when he made his announcement of leaving the club. So let's see what happens. If Liverpool were to win the Champions League or FA Cup, I think also maybe given another season, which I believe would be the wrong decision, as this is a golden opportunity for Liverpool to appoint Xabi Alonso as head coach. Because quite frankly, he's gonna be, you know, highly sought after. Man City, ironically, the team we're facing this weekend, they've been strongly linked with a move for Xabi Alonso, as there's uncertainty regarding Pep Guardiola's future at the club. And if that was to happen, I would be very, very disappointed. But that's how it is right now. And hopefully Liverpool can get it act together and make the right decision for the long-term vision of the club and put ego and pride to one side just because Richard Hughes appointed Arne Slot. He has to look at the bigger picture. If Slot is not delivering what the fans want, you know, tough decisions need to be made. And that's why he's been paid the big bucks. So let's see, what happens in regards to that. But back to the topic and back to Slot's press conference, he did speak about Jeremy Jacquet, and he did say that he was very pleased regarding his signing. He's a big talent, and especially the fact that we were not the only club interested in signing him. So he gives credit to the team. When I say the team, I'm talking about the hierarchy, the people that help get the deals done. And he said that he's a young player that can help the team in the short, medium, and long term, which is very positive to hear. Now, he made reference in terms of the last fixture against Man City, where he said that we were outplayed for large parts of the first half. I have to counter that. I think we were outplayed for the whole part of the game, if I'm being honest with you. And he also said that City are always a force and will always be a force, which, yeah, it goes without saying, especially with the finances involved at the club. But in terms of Liverpool and our sort of results this season, he stated that we haven't found consistency in terms of results, but we have shown this season that we can compete with many teams in the league. In the last game, City were given a light penalty, in his words, and we considered a set piece which didn't help the situation. That led to a goal, of course. Sounds like excuses to me. I wouldn't go far as to say that we have competed with teams this season. Yes, of course you're competing. If you're stepping past the white line and you're on the pitch, you are naturally competing. You're involved, right? But we have not competed with the level that we showcased last season. We have not played to those levels at all. So therefore, we have not competed in terms of how we should be as a team. So I have to strongly disagree with his statement there. And then our journalist asked about the long-term successor to Van Dijk after we signed a few young defenders in the window. And he pretty much stated that look, Van Dijk still has a year and a half left of his contract and can still continue onwards due to um, always being available. And that's credit to him in terms of maintaining his match fitness. Um, and he said, look, a club like Liverpool is always thinking about the future and not just about this particular position, which of course makes perfect sense. And then he spoke about Curtis Jones. So this was regarding the transfer rumors of him moving to Inter Milan, and he said that we've kept him because he's played a lot of games for us. His situation hasn't changed. He's one of 16 players available. So he said it would have been strange for the club to let him go at this stage of the season. Um, and then moving on, they spoke about Kirkes, and he said, "Look, he's performed better because he's played more games and he's learning the role, playing with the same players in the team." And he said, "He's happy to have Robertson in the squad as well, as both players are being utilized very well in the Premier League and Champions League, and expects more to come from Kirkes in terms of his development." But backtracking to Curtis Jones, so the last question said on the press conference was that his contractual situation. What is going on with that? Is he being offered a new contract? Are there talks? He didn't state anything. He didn't confirm anything. He said, he was surprised to get that question because normally another journalist that does, I think it's the guy from Sky Sports, and he said, "Look, you know, the club is aware that he has a year and a half left of his contract, and that's all he can say. He doesn't want to say anything further." So for me, that sounds like a bit of a concern, if I'm being honest. And I didn't really feel like that was the case a few weeks ago. Um, but like Jones has been one of our consistent performers this season, and having a player like Curtis Jones in your squad, I think is vital in terms of what you want on the pitch in terms of quality, but also you want a player that embodies the club as well and represents the fans. Those type of players are very key in order to build connections with the fans as well. So I'm a little bit concerned in terms of his future at the club. And Jones has been very vocal, after our defeat against PSV in the Champions League. He went to the media and said, on American TV, not on the UK TV, that, quote unquote, we were shit. And he's had, he had a spat with Arne Slot on the touchline a few weeks ago against Burnley. Since then, he hasn't started a game either. So, that definitely shows something is definitely brewing in the background. And maybe Slot feels disrespected or challenged by Jones and doesn't appreciate that. Kind of feels like a bit of a dictatorship where you challenge the coach. Oh, you want to challenge me? Fine, you're dropped. Oh, it's like that. I'm gonna try and sell you. That's what it feels like to me. So whether that's the case or I'm reading into it a bit too much, time will tell. But I am concerned about that. And also, if that was to be the case where Jones is the midfielder that is being sold in the summer, that will also confirm for me that McAllister stays on because we wouldn't sell both of them in the same window. And for me, that's the wrong choice. I would rather keep Curtis Jones ahead of McAllister, which I probably would have said a year or two ago. But in this current situation, I believe Curtis Jones is the better fit for the squad and for the team in the long term. So let me know in the chat what you guys think in terms of the whole Curtis Jones scenario, because I know this will definitely split opinions. Some fans don't even rate Curtis Jones like that, which is, you're entitled to have your views. I've always liked Curtis Jones. I think he's a fantastic player, but I like the character as well. You need that type of character on the pitch. Whenever he comes on the pitch, he's always aggressive. He plays with passion, and as fans, that's what we like to see. He's a reflection of us as well. So I think he's an important squad player, but whether he's at the club in the long term remains to be seen. Before we move on and do team news, let me go through the comments. Delulu Steve, big up yourself. Delulu Steve said, "Is my guy always turning the corner on Slot?" No, I'm not. I'm still, my stance is still remaining. But when you're seeing stuff like this online, unfortunately, it does sort of paint the picture as well. Um, he has, we all win the game. What you think? I've turned on Slot? Yeah, behave yourself, bro. I think you're just clutching. I feel like you've turned on Slot as well because you were very positive that we're going to smash Man City this weekend. So that sounds to me like you're in favor of the manager as well, and you're predicting a 4-1. So yeah, if that If that's not support for the manager, I don't know what is. To be fair, Steve said I heard fifth gets UCL2. Yeah, at the minute it looks like it could, but there is no guarantee. So it's one of those things where I feel like just to give a bit of peace of mind to the fans, just finish in the top four, just so we know where we stand. Also, we're going to get Conference League football. I don't think we will. I think we'll be thereabouts, but where we're finishing the top four, I don't have the utmost confidence, if I'm being honest with you. Of course, after winning against Newcastle, the mood should be a bit different. But for me, this team has been far too inconsistent. So I can't say with chest that we'll definitely get top four. But we'll be in and around. And as Steve mentioned, place gets you Champions League. Hopefully it does. So if we finish in fifth, that's where we get there, I guess. So we'll have to wait and see. Bro, that's pure propaganda piece. It is. I was bemused when I saw that on my feed because that sort of interviews they don't do it very often. When they do, it's normally current players and managers or former coaches, that sort of stuff. For it to be FSG representatives and the coach, yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing there to show their support of the head coach in a more public form. Um, yeah, really, really surprised by that. I'm not gonna read that aloud. It was filmed in December. I didn't know when it was filmed. So if that's the case, that's even worse. If that was filmed in December, because we were going through a real bad spell at that time. What does Billy Hogan do again? I'm not. What is his official? I know it's a big job title because he's CEO. Of course he is. He's CEO of Liverpool Football Club. Of course, Edwards is CEO of football, but Billy Hogan is CEO of Liverpool Football Club in that regard. So yeah. So I think this was him getting a promotion. I'll say about a few years ago, isn't it? So yeah, he's pretty much the guy that does the day-to-day work, I guess, in the background. And no, not the sponsorship manager. He is the CEO. You know, that video means nothing. We have seen a sport director slag off the coach in a club propaganda videos. Of course, he's not going to slag him in front of the head coach. That's bizarre, isn't it? But it was just the way they were speaking about things, like they presented the Real Madrid match, like that was the highlight of our season. It's not the highlight of our season, and they never really touched on the negativity in terms of our results as well. But yeah, it's one of those things where they had to do that, I guess, to show their support. But yeah, I'm not too sure about that, to be honest with you. Um, uh, let's go through some of the comments here. Would Curtis Jones want to leave under Klopp? Of course not. But the thing is, this is when you see the power um, being shown here, and that's why I don't like the personality of Slot, because there, if we're just looking from the outside, so there is no sort of confirmation of this, but there are elements of dictatorship, where it's literally a distance between the players and the coach, and he's the boss, and you got to listen to what he says. That's what it comes across to me, and I don't really like that, if I'm being honest with you. Um, because we've seen players like Salah, Mane have issues with Klopp on the pitch, but you know, emotions are high, especially during the game. You go away from the stadium, you have a good night rest, you come back to the training ground next day, and if words need to be exchanged, then you have a meeting, you voice your concerns or your frustrations, whatever occurred the previous day, hash it out as grown men and move on. But this guy seems to see as like, oh, okay, you're saying something bad about me. You're on the list. Like, it gets noted in that regard. So Yeah, I don't like that. But let's see. We'll get the clearer picture, I guess, once the season concludes and we know what happens in terms of Curtis Jones's future. Because I, for one, believe he deserves a new contract. He's not one of the. I don't really watch people's money, but I don't think he earns as much as what most of the senior players are earning right now. So definitely deserves a pay rise in regards to that. And for what he's done for the club over the years, I think it's only right that he's rewarded in the right way. So hopefully he gets his contract, but uh, yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Since I can't focus on show because Ozzy's hair is just on fleek. Pause. Uh, That's a big pause indeed. I'm not really sure about my hair. Unfortunately, I was supposed to do the show about a couple of hours ago, and I overslept because I was putting my kids to bed. So yeah, I haven't even combed my hair. This is just me. Just come on to do the show. So yeah. But yeah, nonetheless, appreciate the compliment. Double D, big up Double D. He's always said the bust up on the pitch was bigger than we thought. Losing a Hong Kong player who also has been one of our better players this season makes no sense. Real talk, I'd rather stop gold than Curtis. I agree. Because when those rumors were circling about Curtis Jones, a lot of people thought, it's that little touchline thing that wasn't the reason, that wasn't a big deal. Clearly is. It clearly is playing a role. You know, Curtis Jones has never been in a position where you know I don't know if we've done this, but it feels like we've sort of put the whispers out there that he's available because Tottenham are very heavy in trying to sign him. And then Inter Milan, a foreign club coming out of the blue to say we want Curtis Jones. There has to be some level of communication to allow inquiries to come through like that. It doesn't just happen out of thin air, in my opinion. So there was certainly something going on in the background that allowed clubs to be alerted about the situation and you know register their interest in the club in the player. Mhm. But yeah, it's not something I like to see because the homegrown thing is a big deal. But at the same time, what they will be looking at is if they were to sell Curtis Jones, that will be regarded as maximum profit because it's homegrown, and because of that, it gives you a sort of a larger, not window, but it kind of like a window. It gives you a larger sort of opportunity to spend big because you've made maximum profit in that regards. So that might be the gamble where they're thinking, oh, from a business point of view, the player's got interest, so we'll get maximum profit from him. And also consider that Elliot, if he's not made his low move into a permanent deal at Villa, that's another homegrown player that goes through as well. So, combine the two, you're probably getting about 70 million for both players. And that is maximum profit there. That allows you to have a big spending spree like we did last year as well. So I don't know. Of course, I would rather have Jones over Slot, any day of the week. But looks like the club are serious about moving Jones, and I don't like it, to be fair. I don't think it's the right way of doing things. Um, Jones has heart in Liverpool, has Slot has heart in Ibiza. Man loved to DJ dance tunes. uh, I know the players. Obviously, these players turn up against these teams. I also know we lose against Forest and draw against West Ham. Simple as that. Yeah, that's true, but it's very easy to uplift yourself against a Man City. But remember, we played Man City 3 months ago and we were trash. So that doesn't correlate all the way. But yeah, let's see what happens. Um, Slow as the modern day Hitler. That's extreme, bro. I know we don't rate him, and he's not really our favorite coach at the moment, but that's dark to say the least. Liverpool 67 big so he said stop ball is killing my soul even more so watching roundtable. Yeah, roundtable unfortunately just it literally put everything in the forefront for us where, they're really backing him. But look, I still stand by my point. I do think that his situation will be assessed at the end of the season only because Xabi Alonso is available. That's the only reason. If Xabi Alonso wasn't available, I don't think they will be in a rush to change the head coach. That's how I'm looking at it. But some will say I'm being hopeful here. So let's see what happens in the near future. What will it take to get Slot out? What will it take to get Slot, Hughes, Adams out, Ozzy? Would they be here for 15 years? Because I can't take that. I can't predict the future for the next 15 years. Um, just like on the football pitch, anything can happen. But in terms of these three individuals, I don't think it'll happen quickly like that. Slot is probably the one that will most likely be the one that gets moved on if that is the decision that the club makes. But also the sporting director kind of is aligned to that appointment as well. So, okay, let's just pick the scenario that we don't get Champions League football. Then you've got both of these guys in question in terms of their future at the club. So they're definitely, you know, I have seen in other clubs where you've got the manager and the sporting director sacked pretty much, not on the same day, but close enough around the same time. So you can't rule that. In terms of Edwards, I don't think he will get dismissed uh, so soon. But then again, there will definitely be a bit of awareness in terms of what he's been doing because since he's been appointed, he hasn't found another club for FSG, which is his main reason of appointment. I don't feel like from what we get public knowledge, I don't feel like that's getting sort of any closer. We were linked with the likes of Getafe and clubs like that, but not really heard much since then. And Bordeaux, Bordeaux is one of the clubs as well, so not really heard much since then. Um, so I don't expect them to be here for the next 15 years. I can answer that for sure, but I don't have a, I don't have a crystal right now where I can see the future. Unfortunately, otherwise, I'll probably got myself winning the lottery. But yeah, that's just how I see it right now. Okay, moving on. Let's do the team news before we do the predicted lineup. So, in terms of Liverpool, Frimpong hasn't trained, so he will not be available for this fixture. Slot did confirm that he's hopeful on Joe Gomez's return to the squad, not as a starter, but could be an option off the bench. And then you've got the likes of Leone, Bradley, Bashir, Isak, excuse me, who remain on the sidelines. In terms of Man City, Doku's out with a calf injury, so thank God for that because yeah, he turns into a prime Neymar whenever he plays against Liverpool. Savinho and Diaz are very close to returning to full fitness, but this game may come too soon for their involvement. And then you've got the likes of Gvardio, Stones, and Kovacic on the sidelines for the foreseeable future. Now, let's move on and present a graphic so we can predict the lineups together. We'll go with the away team, of course, which is Man City. In terms of the setup, looking at the last few games that they've played, I'm going for a 4-1-4-1 formation. I think that's the formation that I can see them playing because I feel like they'd want to try and dominate us, especially from the midfield point of view. Um, and now because they've got wide players that can really attack us from behind, especially from midfield and defense, they're definitely going to be utilized in this game. So, in terms of the teams, it will be Donnarumma in goal. At right back, I'm expecting it to be Mateus Nunes. I never thought he'd turn into a right back, but yeah, here we are. So he's made that position his own this season. On the left hand side, between Ait Nouri and O'Reilly, I think based on how O'Reilly performed against us and more specifically performed against Mohamed Salah, I think he'll start in this game. And then in terms of the defense, former Liverpool target in Mark Gay will start alongside uh, Diaz is fit, but I think it'll be too soon to place him. So I think they'll stick with Kusanov. And of course, City played yesterday against Newcastle. So they've got a lot of players that they might want to rotate, but I think they're going to try and go strong for this fixture. I believe Rodri will be the DM in this game. Um, Semenyo normally plays on the right. Uh, sorry, on the left, but he's been playing on the right recently for Man City, so I'm placing him there. I think Turkey will be there as well. Foden in that sort of more advanced role. Um, believe Bernardo Silva is fit for this one, so I'm gonna put him in the lineup. But if he's unavailable, then for me it would be Reinders that goes. But I'm gonna put Bernardo Silva in the team because I feel like that's the player they always uh, will start, especially against Liverpool, because he knows how to troll us in that regard. So that's the midfield, and of course up top you've got Haaland. But this is a squad that still has plenty of talent off the bench. You've got the likes of Diaz, who I mentioned, has returned to full fitness or close enough. Ake is a defensive option there. Ainuri on the left, Rico Lewis on the right, Nico Gonzalez if they wanted to play double pivot or just for a like replacement for Rodri. And you got Reinders and you got Marmoush as well. So they've got some strong players off the bench. So this is my predicted lineup. So for comment, let me know what you guys think in terms of the this setup. Now, let's move on. Oh, actually, before I move on, one thing I think Liverpool will need to be wary about is the roles of Semenyo and Cherki, because both of these players are unique profiles. They are both footed, so ambidextrous, where they can hit their left, right as effectively, and because of that, do not be surprised if they interchange quite a bit during the game. And this is easily something that will happen, and they'll still provide the right balance in the team because they can play both roles very, very effectively. So that's one thing to look out for. Of course, we know what Haaland's about. Foden has performed really well this season. Last year, he had a bit of a difficult period. This season, definitely lit up the league, in my opinion. Rodrigo provides that rock. Bernardo Silva, as much as I, dislike the fella, technically speaking, he can definitely pull the strings in this team. So yeah, a lot of players to look out for. O'Reilly, very good defensive, but attacking wise, provides great delivery. Mateus Nunes, solid. And then you've got Mark Gay, who's a ball playing centre back, as we all know. So this is not going to be an easy affair for Liverpool at all. Now, moving on, and let's predict the Liverpool lineup. So, no debates here. Allison in goal. Now, the right back is debatable. Um, I really don't want to see Szoboszlai there. I really don't. But do we have an option? I'm thinking in the last match preview, I said Endo as right back. By this game, he will be up against Semenyo or Cherky. Cherky, I feel like he'll be able to handle because I don't think Cherky is going to outpace him on the wings. But he still presents that unpredictability in terms of what feet he's going to kick the ball with. And Semenyo will be very direct against him. So I don't know. I feel like not my choice, but I think Szoboszlai will be playing at right back, which is ridiculous. I feel like he should be playing in the midfield. I would go for Endo, but I don't think Slot will personally. Or put Ramsey there. Actually, play a right back there. That's what I would do. I know it's Man City, but at least play someone that is comfortable in that position. That's what I would do. But that's not the route that he's going to go with. So Kanate alongside Van Dijk. Kirkes at left back in the double pivot. It'll be if I can spell his name correctly, Gravenberg. I would go for Jones, but recent evidence will tell you that Jones may not start. So I think it'll be McAllister. But I would go for Jones in this fixture. I feel like we needed energy for this role. Salah on the right, Verts, who's looking fantastic, of course, in recent weeks. And you got Gakpo, who's looking who's looked the total opposite, if I'm being honest with you. And the man of the hour, here you go, Ekatike. So that is what I expect Slot to start with in this team. So feel free to drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. If it was my choice, I would probably put Sabozlai alongside Gravenberch. Actually, would I even do that? I don't really want to see Verts on the left wing. It's an interesting one. Paul's been so poor, hasn't he? So this is what I would potentially do. So, he's starting on the left, but he gets more of a free roll. Hold on a second. And then you put Sobozlai in that number 10 role. I think because Man City, you go for experience and then you place Endo. And I would replace McAllister in general. So I'm bringing Johnson. This would be my team. Um, this would be my team. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. But in terms of what I think will be happening, I don't think this will be the team. I think it will be Sobozlai right back, and then you've got Verts, the number 10 gap on the left, and I think McAllister will start in this fixture. So yeah. So if, drop a comment, let me know what you guys think in terms of your lineups. Just gonna go through some of the comments before we um before we present our score predictions, and then we'll take it from there. So Steve says, Oz, what do you make of Jacket being too light for the pace and physicality of the Premier League? Um, I don't think he will be, to be honest with you. Firstly, in terms of the two leagues, the French league and English league, of course, there's a big difference. But I do feel like players that come from the French league are normally quick to adapt to the physicality of English football. So I don't think that'll be an issue for him. And he's got a very high percentage of winning aerial duels. I think he's in the 90th percentile. So just because he's tall and and sort of gangly doesn't mean that he's weak or lightweight, in my opinion. Just because he's not, 6'5" and built like a tank doesn't mean he's not weak. He's not strong. So uh, if you watch him play, he's actually very strong on and off the ball. What differentiates him from other defenders is that he's quick off the line, great distribution. That's something I've been wanting to see from Liverpool in terms of recruitment, that they find a centre back that is a ball playing centre back, not just someone that just clears the lines all the time. Someone that can break the lines is more important, in my opinion. So I think he's going to be a fantastic addition to our squad. Whether he's going to be a starter from day one, I'm not too sure. It'll depend in terms of like the recruitment, but he'll definitely be in and around the team, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this signing, and I don't think he's too lightweight, and I think he'll be able to adapt to a league. Um, Maybe not right away because everyone has that sort of that slow transitional period. But I think in the medium term, he will be more than adapt to playing for Liverpool and handling himself in the Premier League. Liverpool 67 says, well, as adding a DM, we need to upgrade on Jones, Endo, Bashich, Mac. I happily take two decent midfielders with pace and power for these four. I hear what you're saying in terms of midfield additions, but I feel like this coming summer, the focus will be the defense more so than not. And that's why I feel like Liverpool can't do too much sort of chop and changing because we did that last summer. And even though I liked the players that we had signed, it may have come across as too much too soon. So in this window, I've said this before in previous shows, it will be a repeat of last summer where we will be signing about 6, 7 players. But for me, that doesn't entail two new midfielders. I see it where the way I have it in my mind, I felt like McAllister would have been the player that we would have sold because I think he's in a slight decline personally, and I believe that there will be interest from him across Europe, in particularly La Liga. And if we're going a bit more deeper, Real Madrid in specific, because that's a player that I have held an interest in him over the years. So I feel like this could be the right time to move him on, where his stock is still pretty much high. He's not had the best of seasons in my opinion, but to other clubs, he's still a good player. So this would be a great opportunity to cash in on him. And I do feel like we could get a good hefty amount from him as well. But based on what we're hearing the last couple of weeks, maybe Jones is the one that departs. But what I will say this, I feel like it is so important that we add a proper number 6 in this team. And I feel like if we don't, it doesn't really matter who we buy. And I strongly believe that because we're definitely gonna add, I would say at least another top centre back in the summer. I'd probably say two. But I think one top quality and one sort of squad player level. And I think that would be our defense for next season. And then I feel like when you've got players that are being added to a department. So, if that was the scenario, that's three new centre backs. Out of five centre back choices, that's three new players. We need to provide them protection from the midfield. So that's why I feel like we need to try and get a proper number 6 that can allow the likes of Gravenberch, Sobozlai, McAllister, Jones, whoever's at the club, allow them to play their natural game because even though I feel like Gravenberch does that number 6 role very well, but he does it in his own way. He doesn't do it the traditional way, in my opinion. I feel like if he has a number 6 alongside him, I think you'll see another level to his game as well. So let's see what happens. But I don't expect us to make too many changes in that department, if I'm being honest with you. Um, bro, Oz don't rate Bashir. He's as good as gone in his eyes. Yeah, he's got it in my eyes. He really is. Bro needs to hit the gym. He does, but unfortunately, he might pick up an injury if he went to the gym. So yeah, he's made of Pringles. It looks like. So this is Bo's team. Ali, Ramsey. Ramsey, I hear you. I would like to see him being given a chance, but even if Stott wanted, I don't think he'll do it against this opposition. I think he'll do it against another team, like of Forest that you mentioned earlier on. Ibu, Virgil, Gurkes, Grab, Jones, Salah, Soboslai, versus Ekitike. Yeah, I hear you. I want to see Jones in the team, and I want to see Soboslai in midfield. Um, but I think he's not going to drop Gakpo. Therefore, the the team kind of just names itself when that happens. He looks a half the size of Leone. Um, I don't know, to be fair. We'll have to see when these players arrive together in preseason. I know height wise, Leone might be a little bit taller. Um, I think he might be a little bit more built, but Don't take that as that he's not as powerful. Trust me, he's not worth that money at all. I disagree. I think he's a fantastic player, to be honest with you. Because we mentioned him quite a few times before this window. I spoke about him, I think, in September because he was always earmarked as Konate's replacement. And sorry to break it to people, but I do think that is literally why we spent big on him. He is coming in to replace Konate directly. So I don't think Konate will sign a new contract. If I'm being honest, we have a proper number six in Murray Hall. If Alonso's here next season, he will love him. I think it's too soon for Murray Home personally. We spoke about this as well. With youth players, you can't just rush them into the first team. They're not ready. You have to be very smart in this sort of, youth football is completely different levels to the professional game. Only if some of them make it, into the first team as teenagers. It's not very common for that to happen. So I feel like we have to, keep the player grounded and keep expectations low as well and allow him to develop, at his rate. And once he's ready, I'm pretty much sure he will find a pathway to the first team. Um, you say you can't praise him enough. Crazy how Slot don't rate our academy. Only time will tell, if he does. But you've got the likes of Trey, Rio, who have been given first team opportunities. I'm not saying they've been given abundance of opportunities, but we've got great players in the academy. I'm not going to deny that. But we got to be smart here. We can't just put them in, um, into the first team mix. It's different levels. It really is. It could be our class of '92. I don't know. I don't know about that. Dare I bring up Willie Lucky? You have now. Yeah, both say he's generational talent, but I wouldn't go far to say that, considering that we've just signed three young centre backs for the same team, as in under 21s. So for me, that doesn't show that they rate Lucky in that regards. And we signed a defender from Senegal. We've got Ndukwe, who's coming in the summer, but I actually think he might be a player that plays in under 21s first, and then we'll see him in the first team transitioned during next season. And then we've got another defender that we signed from Burnley. So, but yeah, if Jack is worth that much money, Lucky is worth 1 billion. Yeah, I think you're going overboard with Lucky. I really do. Yeah, bro. Can you summarize our new centre backs? Yeah. So the Senegalese one, from what I've seen, um, left-footed centre back, very very tall. He must be like 6'4" as well. Good on the ball. Um, Solid in Senegal. They've earmarked him. I don't know. We don't like to hear these sort of comparisons, but um, so it can kind of come to bite you in the future. But they see him as the next Koulibaly. So that's how they've really sort of praised him because they just competed in the under 17s and he was really someone that stood out for them. So he's a good talent. Toyo, he's actually a Scouser. He was born in Liverpool. He had trials at the club when he was at a very young age. I think 9, 10 years old. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do the trials as he wasn't available or he was injured. I think is what was mentioned in the article that I read. Um, so unfortunately, he then moved on, went to Burnley, went through their youth academy, and then we've just recently signed him. So that signing kind of feels like a signing in my eyes that replaces Joe Gomez in the long term in terms of being a homegrown player, but a player that can play, across the back line. I don't know if he's multifunctional. I know he can play right back. I don't know if he can play left back, but I know he can play right back and centre back. And Dukwe, 17-year-old Austrian defender, 6'5", like 17 and 6'5". That's wild, isn't it? He looks out of those players that I've seen. I haven't seen a lot of Adekoyo, or I've not seen much of more the Senegalese defender. I've seen compilations of Ndekwe and more, but And Dekwe, he, if I'm going based on what I'm seeing, he looks like a diamond in the rough. Like he looks like like if he's polished up correctly, he can be one hell of a player for us in years to come. So he's someone that I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops, because I feel like when we see him in preseason, well, I feel like a lot of us are just going to be gassed. I feel like he's going to be that kind of level, and then dare I say there'll be noises where people think, "Oh, he's the next Van Dijk." That's the kind. That's what I'm seeing from him. So I might be speaking too eager. I might be speaking how Bo speaks about relatively lucky here, but out of those defenders, he's the one that really impresses me, and I feel like he's the one that could be the first one to come into the first team mix. That's the prediction I'm making for his pathway next season. Obviously, the club don't like the academy. It's not the players' fault. I disagree. How can you say we don't like the academy when we've just signed three defenders for the academy? That doesn't make sense. So I feel like you're viewing this in a very impatient way. You know, I know you're a youth coach. You mentioned it before, but there are levels to this game. You have to understand this. Just because you're a good youth player doesn't mean you're going to make it as a good professional player. There's levels to this. And we know this as Liverpool fans. We've seen players that have come through the youth ranks and they've shown good signs. Musialowski, the next Messi, apparently. My guy's playing in Cyprus right now. So you've got to be careful how you praise these young players. They need to learn, they need to develop. And it's not always about their footballing ability. The mental game is, for me, is more important. I've said this in the past. When it comes to young players, it's 60% mentality, 40% talent. Because if they don't have the mentality to work on themselves, to give their all to being professional players, they're not going to make it. And history will tell you that. Of course, I'm not a professional player, so I probably don't have any right to say that. But I've played football to a certain level where I'm like, do you know what? I've seen other players, go on to play semi-pro and that kind of level. And I've seen players that I feel like, oh my gosh, he's got great talent, but he didn't have the desire, he didn't have the mentality to look after himself or conduct himself in a professional way. We've seen it in our own eyes with Liverpool players over the years as well. So, we've got to be careful. We've got to let these players grow as individuals because let's not forget, they're teenagers. They're going to make mistakes, so we need to put them in the right path. And in terms of footballing terms, they need to learn to play the game. They need to learn, or they need to be in an environment where they can make mistakes, but also learn from their mistakes as well. Because once they make that mistake for the first team, guess what? Career done. If they make that mistake playing for Liverpool, you'll see them in League Two the following season. And I don't want that for any young player. So you have to make sure they are fully prepared for the life that is ahead of them, which is playing for the first team. Not everyone's built for the first team. So we have to be very careful. We've got players that like Rossiter. Remember Rossiter? He was supposed to be the next Gerrard. What happened to him? Went to Rangers. I think he actually went there when Gerrard was there. Nothing happened. And when I mention players, please don't take it as shades towards these players because they are players that were in the youth ranks, and I've got a lot of respect for them. But I'm just going based off history. You have to, be careful how you manage these sort of players. We have like 5%. Yeah, so literally, Jacquet was our fourth centre back signing in January. So literally. Um, Liverpool Zero says, no matter how many centre back you buy, you can never be sound defensively unless you have a solid midfield in front of the defense. So it's essentially fix the midfield with beast with legs. I agree. I don't think we need to sign like too many of those type of players. I feel like we just need one proper number six. Because I feel like Gravenberch can play that number six role to his level. I feel like he can do a great job there. But I feel like he needs another player that is on the same wavelength as him because the other players are more box to box. They're more in that creative space. None of them are defensively focused like Gravenberg has been for us for the last 18 months. So I agree. We need to get a proper DM. I've been saying that for months, maybe even years now. We haven't even replaced Fabinho. That's how bad it's been for us. Bo says the board we have now don't like the academy, especially the local scousers. Always talk about signing the next big star. Look at what you already have and develop that is a proper football club. You're going off by saying that they don't rate the academy because they don't sign local scousers, but there's a lot of scousers in our academy, so that doesn't make sense either. And the thing is, and look, you might have a difference of opinion, maybe because I think you're based in Liverpool as well, but I don't know. I think based on your previous comment, I think that you've made that reference before, but it is important to have, you know, local scout players or your sort of identity in the team. But unfortunately, we're not going to have a team full of scousers. You go to a Chelsea team, they're not going to have a team full of, Londoners in their team either. So, as a club, what you have to do is try and find the best young talent out there. That's how it works. Whether you like this player or not, we were able to get Raheem Sterling from QPR when he was 15 years of age, 14, 15. And I know he was at the club for a very long time, but he was a special talent at that age. I remember it so that I was telling my friends that, look, we've got this young kid, you know, he was regarded as the next Theo Walcott at the time, which of course, probably wasn't high praise, but that kind of profile. And I said, look, he's the one that's gonna break through. And he broke through when he was a 17-year-old. And look, everyone's making that slight comparison, Raheem Sterling and Rio and Gamoa. Were they at the same level at the same age? Because of course Rio is 17 now. They're not. I'll be honest with you, Raheem Sterling was miles ahead of Rio and Gamoa in terms of their end product, in terms of their overall game at that age. So Raheem Sterling was levels. He really was. If you don't believe me, go through the tapes. Have a look at how he performed for Liverpool at that age. He was a player that could play on the left, on the right. He even played as a number 10 for Brendan Rodgers. He was tactically very, very aware on the pitch. And at that age, he was beyond his years from that point of view. So that's what I'm saying. You have to manage your players correctly. But look, if my club are signing a player from Senegal, from Austria, and they're regarded as the next big thing in world football, why would I be disappointed with that? It's not just about having identity from being your local area, because if it's all about local football, then I'm not here doing a football channel. I'm here representing South London. That's how it would be. I would be supporting Liverpool if that was the case. So, make of that what you will. But I feel like the club are doing the right things, trying to get the best youngsters, because whether you like it or not, mm, I think defense is an area in our academy that isn't the strongest. We've got great attackers, we've got great midfielders, but the defense is a little bit weak. So that's why we've gone and signed these two gems that have really done well in the under 17 World Cup. So, that's why they're here. And I remember watching a video of Arsene Wenger, and he's always someone that's glued onto you football. And he was saying that the guy from Austria, big, big things are happening for him in the future. So, and this was before the Liverpool move. So that would go to show that, we've signed it. I feel like we've signed a really special player there. Well said, did Klopp complain when we won against Chelsea with the kids? Klopp complains about not having a superstar in every position. You got to put context into it, Bo. That wasn't a thing that he did because he wanted to do it. We had a lot of injuries in that season. He had no choice but to bring those youngsters through. It wasn't by choice. He didn't think a lot of them were ready. He said that in the press conference before. But he was like, look, my God, they've got amazing mentalities because they've come in unexpectedly and have done a job for the team. But That comes from the energy of the coach. But that wasn't the plan. The plan wasn't for them to be in the first team. Because where are they now? They're not in the first team. There's a reason why. They weren't ready, but we had to put them in because their development was going at a good rate and we could use them sparingly in Premier League or Cup games. So it wasn't by choice. So you have to put context into what you're saying. Jordan Ibe, that's someone I mentioned in the past. Yeah, things that unfortunately didn't work out for him as well. He was regarded as Raheem Sterling's successor, the next big thing. Unfortunately, he had, issues in his personal life that of course didn't help. But that's what I'm saying. When it comes to young players, you don't know what they're going through day to day. Everything is not just playing, for us to see on the pitch. These guys are human beings. There's more to this than just expecting them to be the next superstar. It doesn't work like that. It's not a computer game. What's about Mattel? How do you think the Canadian players feel when they see signing after signing in their position with big fees? I'm not saying that they don't. They need to start every game. Hmm. But I'm sorry, if they're good enough, they'll be there. It's simple as that. I know that sounds a bit cutthroat, but if they're good enough, they will be in the first team. As it stands, they're not good enough. So Liverpool have to invest in other talent across the globe. Simple as that. We've just signed one of the best up and coming youngsters in world football in Jeremy Jacquet. If you don't believe me, go and see the stats. If you don't believe me, go and see him play. He was very highly sought after. He's 20. He just turned 20. So how's Lucky? Lucky is about 18, 19, right? Similar age. But Jacquet's been playing first team football. That's the difference. Remember Ryan Kent? I do remember Ryan Kent. There was big things expected from Ryan Kent, especially because he was bow-footed, and he was very interesting to watch because there'll be a moment where he takes a corner of his left foot, next corner other side taking his right foot. So he was a very, very talented player. But yeah, I don't think he was just at the level that Liverpool wanted. There's no shame in that. Liverpool's one of the best clubs, all by society. We are one of the best clubs in the world. Not anyone can come through and get into the first team. It doesn't work. Life doesn't work like that. So yeah, but he was a decent player to be fair. I think he made a name for himself for Rangers. And did really well. I think under Gerrard as well, ironically. Uh, I'm talking about the Barnsley game. I didn't realize we were talking about the Barnsley game, but okay. Why play Van Dijk? Why play Sobo? Why play Maka? Why not Lucky, Murray Home, and Sonny Lamby? It's about how you treat them. Would the Academy be happy with that? Football is a results game. You should know that by now. It's as simple as that. We needed a win in that game. Um, and it's the only chance of silver that we could potentially win. So I agree. We maybe should have played a bit more, youth players in that game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Rio and Trey only got some game time in that one, right? So, that's what you have to look at. Sonny Lamby, someone that's very, very, very highly rated at the club. He'll get some opportunities in the near future. Maybe just not right now. Murray Home, you've mentioned him before. I've heard things about him as well. He's the next one up, but timing is very key. Lucky, I feel Lucky's a good defender, but I don't think he's a generational talent in terms of what you've said in the show before. So you have to. I know you're a youth coach. So I feel like you've got your youth coach hat on right now, but there's levels. There's levels to this. A lot of these players, unfortunately, won't make it to the Liverpool team, and there's no shame in that. We've had a lot of players come through that was supposed to be the next big thing, but they never made it. And Woodburn, another one. I watched the interview of Sadio Mane with Rio Ferdinand. He thought Ben Woodburn was going to be next one because he apparently spoke to him and said, "Look, you're the future of the club." Where is he now? So it doesn't work out the way things project. It's not how it is. I've played with full bass players, never relegated so many times in Europe. It's possible for with proper people at the club. Yeah, okay, that is a good example, I guess. But They're a club that are not blessed with the finances that Liverpool have. If they were, I don't think that would be their philosophy all the way around. Every club is not Athletic Bilbao. Athletic Bilbao do not win titles year in, year out. They don't win silverware, respectively. I want my team to win silverware. Maybe the new centre, but my fear is that they won't get a chance on the slot. Only time will tell. I can't really say that with chest. I'm hoping talent will prevail and they'll have no choice but to put those players in the team. Gakpo's not good enough. He starts every game. Yeah, I think that's his son-in-law. I don't know. I don't know. You're right. That's something we can agree on. He's not good enough, but he's been awarded with a bumper contract. He's probably one of the highest earners at the club. And for me, he's not good enough. It's true. Um, I really wanted us to upgrade on Luis Diaz last season because I feel like those two players were good in terms of providing that balance on that left wing, where some games Gakpo suited really well in terms of his productivity, but there were games where I feel like Diaz was more suited in terms of his tenacity on the wings. So we had a good balance there. And Rio in the long term could be that guy that provides that width and that sort of acceleration and that unpredictability on the wings. But he's a player that's still learning and developing. Uh, and because of that, Gakpo's been utilized a lot more. And I feel like this season he's been so predictable that it's quite it's been an awful watch, if I'm being honest with you. I've not enjoyed Gakpo at all this season. But yeah, I don't think he's good enough either. I feel like this coming summer we should upgrade on him. Whether we do or not remains to be seen. City's gone for a 4-3 filler this Sunday. Interesting. Rio got 1 minute that game. I know, but only, yeah, I know. But the thing is, Slot will tell you they got minutes, but you're right, they didn't get many minutes, unfortunately. Um, Mohamed Suleimani says, I need Versa to be the recreation of Muller and Henry on Sunday. Wow. There's already shots that they are the recreation of Steven Gerrard and Fernando Torres, which I'm all for it, to be fair. Even that goal that Ekitike scored, I saw Sky Sports do a comparison of Torres scoring a similar goal. I believe it was his first goal for Liverpool against Chelsea. And although technique was a little bit different, but the execution was, very much similar. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they and look, they look like they formed a great partnership. So I'm looking forward to how they do as the season goes on. Boss says, will Haaland have his shooting boots on? I hope not. I really hope not. Um, Now in terms of score predictions, I am going for a Liverpool win. Surprise, surprise. I think we'll nick the win in this one. So I'm going for a 2-1 victory. And in terms of the goal scorers, it's the duo in Ekitike and Verts that will be on the score sheet. And unfortunately, to both there, I think Haaland will score the consolation goal for City. So that is my score prediction, and that is also the match preview as well. Boss says your thoughts on Bielsa Ozzy as a coach. He's a great coach, and there's so many people that will vouch for that as well. I think he was a fantastic coach. But I think when he came to Leeds, he definitely improved them, but maybe the culture and the way the English football was played, um, I don't think he feels like fully in tune with that. But no, he's a character. We've seen that in the Premier League. Passionate individual, and his teams play proper football. So yeah, he's a great coach. Um, Hopefully we can have an attack-minded coach like that in the near future. Um, 3-1 prediction. from Mohammed Suleiman. And then Ozan, big up Ozan, he says, we shall win due to Ozzy's fantastic play. Bloody hell. Big up yourself. You love BSO, my top football. Yeah, he does play a good brand of football. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Shout out to Steve, shout out to Bo, shout out to Double D, shout out to Liverpool 67. Who else do we have? Shout out um, to Mohammed Suleiman as well. And shout out to Ozan as always. Appreciate your engagement as always. Ozan's gone for a 4-2 victory there. We won't have a clean sheet. Yeah, I don't think we'll have a clean sheet. That's why I've gone for a 2-1. But yeah, hopefully Liverpool can get the win. So yeah, that's it for today, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, excuse me, hopefully I can recover from this cough. I thought I was getting better now. Now the cough has resurfaced. So yeah, trying to get my health back in check. But in terms of upcoming fixtures, or should I say in upcoming shows, uh, potentially I'll be doing a watch along. I can't promise. So potentially do a watch along. If not, we'll do a match reaction show either on a Sunday evening or on the Monday. But I definitely plan on doing some content this weekend. And in terms of next week, it might be a bit light in terms of regular shows, but the best thing to do is hit that notification bell so you know exactly what time I go live and what shows are coming up. And yeah, hopefully, stay tuned. We'll try and do as many shows as possible. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.